The reason we're here today is to talk about the Red Cross plans in future. I met with United Way this morning, so it was logical that I could spend the day with you and other elected officials today, and then tomorrow we'll be hosting a town hall meeting at the Red Cross office at 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock, so we'll invite the general public to come in. But the reason we're here is to talk about the Red Cross's future and vision and how it's going to impact the community. So in a renewed commitment to be good stewards of the money that our generous donors give us, we are not, I'm not sure if you're aware, we are not funded by the government. So all of our funding comes from individuals, corporations, and partner agencies such as United Way. In an effort to be better stewards of the money that our generous donors give us, we started to look at our organization and ask how we could be more efficient and how we could provide better services to the counties whom we serve. One of the areas that the Red Cross nationally felt that we could be more efficient is in looking at our real estate. So the change about 8 years ago, the Red Cross was originally a volunteer organization, and then we grew and grew and grew across the United States, and we had many different Red Crosses doing many different things in many different areas. And about 8 years ago, they began the perspective of making us more of a unified and standardized organization. We are not alone in looking at our organizations like that in order to survive these economic times. Organizations like Cancer Society have done it, Boy Scouts has done it, Girl Scouts is about to do it, even United Way is in the process of redefining how they better serve their community. So we're not alone in doing that as a nonprofit. So we've gone from a volunteer model to a largely staff model, and we're making the shift back to becoming a leaner staff and a more heavily supported organization with volunteers. Our building in Lebanon is too big by a long shot. So right now we have 2 part-time staff folks that are there maybe 2 or 3 days a week. Mm-hmm.
They're full-time staff people, but they split their time. So 2 days in Lebanon and 11 like this.
So we're going to put the building up for sale, and we're probably going to enter into a tenant-landlord situation because we just don't need that much space. To own a building, as you all are probably aware, is very expensive, and we feel we need to be better stewards of the generosity of our donors. So we're not leaving the community, and that's what we're here to tell you. We're not leaving the community. In fact, our goal for next year is to double the number of volunteers we have in Lebanon and to better serve your community. So we just wanted to make sure that we answered any questions you might have, and that if your constituency asks you, you're able to answer them with accuracy about the Red Cross being here, not leaving its community, and being fully committed to providing even better services than we do right now by increasing our volunteer capacity.
A movement, I guess, is it nationwide?
Yes,
or, yeah.
oh, of course.
Are there some that have gone out in front before Lebanon, or are they doing it?
Oh, sure. I'm trying to think of some of the areas where we've sold our buildings already. Can you think about now? This is week 8 for me.
Well, I think,
At one point
I think when you had an open house a year or so ago, you were talking about the building, you know, not having the need.
There used to be 20 chapters in central Pennsylvania, which goes from Maryland to the New York border. Now there's 4. In the state of Pennsylvania, we're split into 3 regions. We're one of the few states that has more than one region in the state. Take a state like Mississippi, they have one region to cover the whole state. Pennsylvania is unique in the services that we provide and the amount of people. There are 10 properties in central Pennsylvania that are either on the market, will be going on, or have already been sold. There are a few buildings in our region that have already done that.
Okay. Well, my reason for asking that question is that more and more we hear today the difficulty in finding volunteers, and I just wondered how that's working out for the other agencies?
So it's a really good question. And for those of us who are involved with other organizations other than the Red Cross in our volunteer capacity, we know that securing volunteers is difficult for all organizations. Our big commitment for next year is to increase our volunteer capacity. It's always to raise money. We're no different than any other organization. Everybody has to raise money. But we've made a concerted effort, and we'll define our needs first in each chapter, and then we'll do them for the region, and we'll do it with a team approach. We'll also do a needs assessment that will define what kinds of volunteers. So it's one thing to bring volunteers in, but the other thing we've learned is if you don't bring them in and get them engaged immediately, they lose their connection to the organization. So we have formal needs assessment, and Paul and I were just talking at lunch today, is that we're going to clearly define what kind of volunteers we need. So this came about, for example, when I was talking to our volunteer recruitment manager, and he's, as you know, we all have to have background checks, FBI, child, all of that. We have 1,600 volunteers, and Red Cross mandated that all of our volunteers get that certification. That's a huge undertaking, and they gave us a year to do it, or a little over a year to do it. And he said to me, I'm bogged down in the data input. And I said, Tom, you shouldn't be doing that. We should have volunteers who are good at data entry doing that. And I said, it could be picking up the phone and calling Pennsylvania College of Technology and asking 5 professors, hey, would you give us an hour a day or 5 hours a week just to put data in? And they, of course, would say, yes, because I don't want to interface with people. I like my computer. If I can give you 5 hours and not leave my office, they log on, everything's done virtually, then we could do that. So it's really defining what needs we have and the skill set that goes with it. And so we're in the process of doing that. And they're doing that both at a national level and at a local level. One of the other issues we were facing was when we brought volunteers on, the process of getting them connected was taking as long as 30 days. We have a whole database where volunteers register their volunteer hours. So the National Red Cross just came up with a Center of Excellence. And so when a volunteer makes a commitment to the Red Cross, the Center of Excellence will connect with them, and they'll have them in and up and ready to go in 2 days. And the person you talk to may be in Alabama, so we're trying to centralize and make sure we're meeting the needs of the volunteers. But yeah, it's difficult. Everybody's in the same boat when it comes to looking for volunteers. But I think the more specific we are and what we need, the more targeted we can be in going to organizations where we might be able to find those types of people. And we've found that folks who are newly retired are really great volunteers for us. And if you look at like emergency service volunteers, they're great for us because Paul will get up at 2 or 3 in the morning if the phone call comes, and they're used to that as well. So well-defined skill set for our volunteers and targeted recruitment, I think, will help us along the road. So.
I'm well aware that many organizations are doing the model you're talking about. For instance, the Lebanon Daily News sold their building, but they're occupying a space. My question to you is the zoning appropriate at that building, or will you be taking space elsewhere?
We would probably, I think that piece of real estate would be better to sell as a whole piece than to have us included in it. So we would sell the whole building, and it, as I said, it may even go back on the tax rolls. It may even be advantageous to.
I was going to request that.
Yeah.
That's,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's certainly something we think about, what's best. Obviously we'll take the best buyer, but in my mind, I'm thinking somebody that's going to take that is going to be a private, something that puts it back on the tax rolls.
Okay,
So-
so then you would find another location within the county?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in a tenant-landlord situation. Again, we need probably 2 offices, very little space.
Okay.
And we would also need storage space for, so right now, Paul can speak more to this, but we have the capacity out of our trailer to serve 50 folks.
It's set up for 50 people.
We need to be ready to set up for about 100 people. And so, we have some ideas about that. It does not have to be directly where we're located. It just has to be great space to get it moved.
How would you need that space?
can speak to
Paul,
that.
I mean,
Well, obviously, we would need access to it like during the day because we had paid staff. The other thing is, if there would be some type of emergency, or we might have to have a place to hold a meeting to do planning, where, you know, we do a lot of our own planning in relationship with the county. In fact, we have a tremendous relationship with the county. I always like to mention that, as well as with the city, and you know, we have.
But for instance, our 911 center, depending how many people you would need, if we could work that out, that would be one place you could meet as a group.
you're
Yes.
saying you need space for 100 people.
No.
Well, we're talking about
Storage.
the way we have it set up when it comes to sheltering, and you're aware of this, is the Lebanon Expo Center
Mhm.
handles about 3,000 people, I think that's the number. And the county has purchased a
Generator?
20, I don't know, I thought it was 60, but it's 120 or something. And the goal is to provide electric at the center to use your generator, as well as we have Salvation Army repositioned equipment. They have a generator also, and we're still working on this, is the Catholic Church in Cornwall, which you're aware of. There's a generator, and one of the agreements was that the Red Cross would use her facility as a shelter. And we are working on that, and I appreciate the fact that you did that. In fact, Jeri asked me today how many shelters we have, and everybody used to think it's a secret, but I tell you, we have 25 or 26 shelters in Lebanon County, including the schools. But our big thing is, and one of our concerns, me in particular, was, you're all aware of what happened in 2011, where the Lebanon County was actually cut off, and I was involved in one of the first meetings, and Jeri came aboard, and they said, we need to make sure that we take care of Lebanon. They have to have a place, and they have to have equipment in case they get cut off, like they did before. Why it happens in Lebanon, but it does, and I showed her the dike. I said, this place flooded in '72 before I came here, then in 2011 it flooded, and we get a lot of flat flooding. So those are things that the organization has assured me that we will be in Lebanon. We're not leaving, and we'll bring supplies here. And I figure if we can initially handle 100, 200 people, if we have to take equipment from the south, wherever, the 5 or 6 places that we position equipment, would help us to be able to be sustained as a county, because that's our goal in our 22 counties, is for the first 3 or 4 days, that county with our volunteers would be able to take care of itself. So I think with the model that we're using, that's probably going to happen, and you guys know this. If I didn't think that was right, I would be the first one to speak up and say, no, that's not right, we have to do this.
You are in touch with the Salvation Army.
It's just, sir, I have the captain's number and his wife's number right on my telephone.
There's nothing-
We've had a tremendous relationship. In fact, if we were to open up a shelter today initially to feed, I would call the Salvation Army and tell you, we need your truck, you need to send your van down, we need to feed people. And
Yeah.
they do it right away. Or
No, we're kind of exceptional, and you know, not every Salvation Army
yes, sir, I know, I'm very much aware
has their own truck, so.
of the relationship. In fact, the previous captain said to me one day, Paul, he said, you know, it don't make a difference to the people if that sandwich comes to the Red Cross and the bottle of water comes to the Salvation Army. I said, Captain, we're taking it wrong the right lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had a tremendous relationship since 2009, something like that.
Good.
Just before I left the Red Cross.
We can do more together than we can separately.
And we know that. They have a tractor and trailer, right? We had water and stuff that the county had, and we stored it and used it for the county disaster recovery group. And then the Salvation Army took it. So we as a small county have a great relationship with a lot of agencies. The Lebanon Christian Music CAP program. You know, so it's.
So we're not leaving. We're just gonna be better stewards of our money and grow our volunteer base so we have more resources.
So it makes sense to direct the money to where the need is rather than things that you don't need, obviously.
And one of the things that, and the three of you probably aren't Jamie, but the Red Cross is an unfunded entity of the United States government. What that means is, if a plane crashes here in Lebanon, or a train wreck, the Red Cross, whether we had money or not, by federal mandate, must respond to that emergency. So there's a lot of things that we do at Armed Forces, emergency services, that we have to provide that service. You know, that's why we're trying to take as much money as we have and put it back into our communities.
And so I'll share an example with that. Our volunteer services manager was deployed yesterday to Texas for 3 weeks. He got the call on Monday, and he left on Tuesday, and we'll see him in 3 weeks. Because you've all seen what's happening in Texas. It's unbelievable. My fundraising folks are on the phones as we speak, raising money for Texas. And if in fact something like that happened in our backyard, our friends in Texas and California would be doing the same thing for us. So we do keep money in the community, but if something happens that's bigger than the community, we know that, you know, the Red Cross will be there to support them.
Are you, though, in the United States? Are you foreign?
We're an international agency.
You
We
are
are
international.
international, but they're a little bit separate.
Okay.
So
Funding stays in the United
Yes.
States?
Yes.
To give an example, the funding from United Way in Lebanon County is targeted to support Lebanon County. Now, we do other fundraising in relationship to our entire operation. You know, the money that comes to Lebanon County from, for example, United Way, and if people say it themselves, we want this money used in Lebanon County, that money is used in the fund Lebanon County.
And there are certain donors who just want to do international.
Right.
So we have a donor in Lancaster County who we think will be funding measles overseas, but that's his thing. We have both, but the fundraising we're doing right now is both local and national. But it's nice to know if you get in trouble, the Red Cross will be there, and we'll figure out how to pay for it later. We'll find the money, so. But the reason that we wanted to meet with you is we wanted to make sure that, first of all, you understood our position, that we could answer your questions, and if your constituency asks you, you have the right information to answer the question, and that you help us promote that we are not leaving the community, that we're actually are committed to do an even better job than we've been.